Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to Broken Sword 5, The Serpent's Curse. So, we haven't seen the Serpent, but you know what? Let's be honest here. Broken Sword 4 was called the Angel of Death. We really didn't deal with the Angel of Death in that game. Broken
It was an
Sword
old
3
weathered sundial.
was
From the
called...
dial I could see that the main doors of the house faced north.
Let's see. I could... What was Broken Sword 3 called?
The wind chime was made from old tin cans and other rubbish.
Well... Broken Sword 1 was called Shadow of the Templars. That kind of made sense. Broken Sword 2 was called The Smoking Mirror. And maybe that made a little bit of sense, although I don't think, other than the animation that was hand-drawn animation and looked like a cartoon. And again, maybe that's where they should have gone, is just had Broken Sword get turned into a series of direct-to-video movies or cartoons, or perhaps a series if you could afford that series. Let's give this... Well, let's not directly give it to Marquez, and instead let's talk to him. But actually, let's talk to Nico first, just to see what she says.
What are you thinking, Nico?
We're getting that creepy zoom in. I do not like that.
It looks familiar.
You're right. You know what?
In Marquez's photo, his family was standing in front of it.
And then it slowly, creepily zooms out again.
Senor Marquez?
Now it's creeping right back in. Why would you do that?
Mr. Stobbart?
If we're going
Like,
to
the
find
first
the
time
power,
that happened, that creeped me out.
Yes?
Did no
then
testers
we will have to help.
tell them that? Give them that
course.
feedback?
I mean, by being totally honest with us.
How many TV shows or movies have you seen the
When
cameras slowly
have I
creep
not
in
been
when people
honest?
start talking, then creep back out when they're done talking? You don't have that. You have cut to cut to cut to cut. Jump cuts. Fades. I've never seen a zoom used for that reason.
Take a look at this.
We'll just show everything that
Did
Marquez...
you break this?
No, absolutely not.
Good.
I found this.
It looks like one of my father's statues. He collected ancient carvings.
I found this.
We'll just
My
go through
father
everything
had a
here.
collection of those.
Take a look at this.
An old statue. It looks like someone used it for target practice.
I suppose if you were going to have keys to a secret fireplace passage, which is I assume what's going to happen here, is it's going to open up and go down underground, having a few spares or having a collection of those keys might be a good idea if you plan on it lasting for
Probably
many
wouldn't care.
decades.
I think this is yours.
My medallion. Where did you
Should
find
have
it?
put it on the
It was left in
painting.
Nico's
See
neighbor's
what
closet.
happens.
Do you want it back?
No. You keep it for now. It has a meaning, a purpose. Perhaps you can find out what.
Yeah,
Sure.
clearly.
Just let me know if you ever want it back.
Clearly, I wouldn't be able to go forward in this puzzle without it.
So this is you with your mother and father?
Indeed. Taken in this very building many years ago.
And see, he doesn't even notice that the statues are missing.
Take a look at this sketch.
It is the face in La Malediccio.
It was drawn by the man who restored the painting.
Then he knew of the Tabula Veritatis. What other secrets did he uncover?
I don't know, but he's dead now.
Just as well. The fewer that know the secrets of La Malediccio, the better.
One of the things I generally like about point-and-click adventure games is the fact that you can take your time with it. There's no real time limit here. We can have every single conversation option. We can be OCD. We can be completionists. However, in this case of this game, there have been many instances, at least 4 or 5, where you've clicked on one thing and not been able to click on the other. So it's not even staying true to that old way of making games like this.
Father Simeon, the Dominican priest, was carrying these papers when he was killed.
So?
You're not interested in him?
I have no interest in priests or their papers, senor.
I could try to make the argument that point-and-click adventure games don't really stand up to the test of time and aren't just close to a modern way of playing games. But this example would not be a good example of that, because I have played modern point-and-click adventure games. They still make them, and when done right, they still play as well as they used to. Maybe standards have gone up in the many decades since they originally came out, but many of the new point-and-click adventures actually do at least reach or get close to those standards. The problem with this game is solely its own. It's a lack of understanding how to even do what you used to do on the part of Revolution Software.
He wouldn't want to see it.
And we see that consistently with the remasters too, where they change the writing and take out content and streamline it.
The old cockroach in a matchbox trick, eh?
Ah, you know it.
It's nearly as old as ferret in the pants.
Interesting.
You're getting out of touch.
That might have been one of those side achievements.
Rich tea cookie?
It looks similar to a Marie.
Marie, huh? Can you dunk a Marie?
Dunk? What is dunk?
No way. You never dunked?
I don't think so.
Wow. Well, here's a promise. When this is all over, I'll teach you how to dunk.
Thank you, George. I look forward to that.
Another silly bit of conversation, and that's what you're looking for in point-and-click adventures. Is you want to be surprised that the creators of the game spent the effort, took the time, wrote something interesting when you interact or do something that you think, oh, the game creators wouldn't have bothered to do that. It's incredibly disappointing when I go through so many of these items and it's just a default response. He wouldn't be interested.
Marquez wouldn't want to see it.
Yeah, that's incredibly boring and disappointing. And it's so far from what good point-and-click adventure games are designed around. The whole idea is to make games longer because they couldn't fit on but the 3.5 floppy disks that they used to come on. So you couldn't have tons of music or tons of animation or an amazing open world 3D environment engine with physics and lighting and all of that. You had to make do with just text, and then when they got the talking in there, that helped a little bit. But even a lot of games, once they became talkies, stopped having as much emphasis on the writing and as much emphasis on the puzzles being interesting and complicated and ideally not full of moon logic and crazy ways of thinking that only the creator of the game would realize were the solution.
Tell me about the painting.
When I was a child, I would stand here for hours just staring at it.
And yet he
Who
never
was the mysterious
saw the
painter
statues on
and
the
serpent?
sides.
The serpent. And what did it mean, la maledicción, the curse? I asked my father, but he just told me to be patient. He said that one day I would know everything.
So the knowledge is a curse, apparently.
Senor, can you decipher any of the painting?
The Tower of Saints, of course. I knew it was a castell. And the saints themselves are Gnostic. You see the woman in red?
The one you marked in the photo?
She is Mary Magdalene. We revere her as Christ's greatest disciple. The rest, I don't know.
The symbol on the face, it is obviously the tabula.
But the elements around it, I don't know.
When were you last here, Senor?
Not since that day when my father was killed.
But
So
this
why
guy's
the
been here
painting bring us here?
the whole time?
As I said, because only here in this room will its clues become clear.
It's not a terrible way to hide a secret, particularly if you want your secret to die out in a couple 100 years. The buildings will fall down.
Why is the tabula veritatis so important to the Gnostics?
It is an object of immense power. My ancestors kept it safe for hundreds of years. They brought it to Catalonia as exiles long ago. In any generation, only one Gnostic knows its exact location. My father, Xavier, was the last of these. He knew dark forces were gathering, but I was too young to learn the secret. So he commissioned La Malediction, embedding clues to the location of the tabula within the painting.
Now, I don't fully remember this, but wasn't there a point in Broken Sword 3 where George was turned into a Templar, one of the real Templars and not the Neo-Templars that were a splinter group? And didn't we find out that the Templars weren't so bad after all? Be interesting if they came back for even a second. It would be a nice way to wrap up this series, which I would have hoped Revolution Software would have gotten the idea that they probably should do that, but frankly, I would not be surprised if tomorrow they announced another Kickstarter for Broken Sword 6. I think they're going to probably try to keep themselves employed off the backs of Kickstarter for as long as they can. Which, frankly, that has worked in several instances. Old video game creators living off nostalgia and making money from it.
But what is the tabula? What does it do?
I do not know. I know only that in the wrong hands, it would be catastrophic for mankind.
I kind of get the feeling that it might be like some evidence that maybe Mary Magdalene was pregnant with Jesus' child or something, and there's direct lineage to Christ, which is what the English kings and queens wanted to try to prove, but the Catholic Church, even themselves, tried to get away from that and deny that.
What happened back in Paris? We thought you were dead.
A man came to the apartment looking for Miss Collard. He mentioned a stolen painting owned by a Russian. Obviously, I informed him that I was the true owner.
Obviously.
Next thing I knew, this thug had me pinned to a chair and was threatening to shoot me. So I told him of the castell. And while he telephoned his boss, I hit him with a little China dog.
Guess he didn't know you were the pugnacious type.
And so I guess all the blood on the floor was Shears?
So Eva is your daughter?
She was a gift from God, late in my life. One day she will find room for Gnosticism in her heart. I am sure of it.
The way this is set up, there is a decent chance he will die and Eva will have to take on the lineage, too.
So You're the good guys?
Good and evil are meaningless terms. We strive simply to maintain balance and keep the tabula from those who seek to exploit it for their own ends. You shall get back to it.
Oh, Broken Sword 3 was called The Sleeping Dragon, and it was about dragon lines, ley lines, and they worked really, really hard to rename ley
Marquez
lines
said that the
as
painting
dragon
contained
lines.
clues only a Gnostic could solve.
Hmm.
But when it was back in this room, all would become clear.
Alright, so a green statue here. And that's not the right one, so let's try this one. And hope that that's the right one. And then a blue statue here.
The statues were facing outward, just like in the Marquez photo. I waited with bated breath for something to happen. Nothing.
So the facing outward ones aren't the right ones, so it must be the facing inward ones. I think the picture is probably just wrong. That they had the statues in the wrong places intentionally.
That wouldn't make any sense.
Let's see.
The blue statue was missing its head. Only his robes and sandaled feet remained. The painting held all the answers. The Tower of Saints had led us to the Castel. I wondered where the other clues would take us.
So let's look at all these.
The blue-colored statue was robed with a bald head and bare feet. It resembled the statues in Marquez's family photo.
So let's put them back the way it was.
The green stone figure was barefoot and wearing a hat. The blue statue was missing its head. Only his robes and sandaled feet remained.
Okay. So I think I've done that.
I'd put some statues above the fireplace, but it was hard to tell if they were the same ones as in Marquez's family photograph.
Let's try this.
Nope, I needed to try something else. That would be pointless. If I looked hard enough, I'd find the answers I needed. Inside the ring was what looked like an affluent town. There was a tower within the ring. Maybe it indicated a place? Within the ring, there were a number of houses. It was a village or a small town. Inside the ring was a castle gate. I had no idea what it signified.
And then we've got over here.
The figure of the young man was just like the one on the front of the fireplace. It couldn't be a coincidence. The youthful figure held a glowing blue orb in his hand.
Blue orb.
The bearded figure was similar
Green
to the
orb.
one on the fireplace in the hall. I wondered if there was a connection. The orb in the old man's hand glowed with a green light.
Blue orb, green orb.
The carved figure resembled the young man in the painting. That wouldn't have worked.
So I think we need sunlight through this.
I had to get closer before trying that. I'd put some statues above the fireplace, but it was hard to tell if they were the same ones as in Marquez's family photograph. On the fireplace behind them were two identical statues. On the fireplace behind them were two identical statues. The green stone figure was barefoot and wearing a hat.
Barefoot, wearing a hat.
The blue-colored statue was robed with a bald head and bare feet. The blue statue was missing its head. Only his robes and sandaled feet remained. It was the lower half of a green, barefooted statue. Nope, I needed to try something else.
See, I can't replace these things.
The blue-colored statue was robed with a bald head and bare feet. It was the lower half of a green, barefooted statue.
So that, too, might be the solution.
Senor Marquez?
Maybe we can have more of a conversation now. Nope.
We must
Not
hurry
really.
up and figure this out.
It was old and undamaged.
Do I have anything I can throw through this?
That was almost a great idea. Almost.
We already tried that. Ball of yarn.
Nope, I needed to try something. The wind chime was made from old tin cans and other rubbish. I needed a better idea. That wouldn't work. That wouldn't have worked.
Oh, this is ridiculous. We need the light to go through the stained glass, it seems.
Hey, Eva.
Senor,
Yeah, I think we're gonna just have to ask for a hint again. Like,
Any more thoughts on the statues?
They're just old stones.
and see, I can't walk anywhere to the
There
car.
was no way I was going near that goat again. The fountain had stopped working long ago.
And there's nothing here. There's no comment, no statement, nothing really helpful. See what Nico says.
Hey, Nico.
Almost nothing because it has to
are you
load.
sure the statues are both in the right position?
And there's nothing I can do with this door.
The door was locked.
Again, that might just have been a stretch goal.
Large double doors blocked the way.
Unless I was going to use the statue to
I
try to
needed a
break the
better
door.
idea. The scroll beneath the shield read Figueres. The scroll beneath the shield read Figueres. The stone fireplace was old and dusty. It looked like it had lain undisturbed for decades.
So we're just going to have to hint again. Just give me another hint. I know statues should be placed in the plinths, but I don't know which way they should face. Simeon's referred to the blue perfecta and green carpenter credentes. How could that relate to the... So Simeon's note apparently plays a part
The statues
here.
on the plinth were the same as the ones in the Marquez family photograph.
So I wouldn't have remembered that. That's been hours and hours ago.
I wondered if the notes could help decrypt La Malediccio.
Clad in blue, the perfectae take the form of the spiritual and look towards the rising sun, towards the tree of knowledge. Clad in green, the credentes look the other way, towards the setting sun, where stands the tree of life. And all shall know the light of knowledge is blue, and the light of life is green. So, for thus was the light of Eden, both blue and green, interlined with the light to become more pure.
The illustration showed a group of colored figures engaged in some sort of ritual. The blue and green figures appeared to be in control. The crowd in the foreground were colored red. I guessed it was a representation of the ritual in the text. The large figures looked just like the carvings on the Castell fireplace.
So let's look at the blue.
The blue-colored statue was robed with a bald head and bare feet. The green stone figure was barefoot and wearing a hat.
Honestly, I should have just found the solution by now, just by trying different things.
The blue statue was missing its head. Only his robes and sandaled feet remained. The green stone figure was barefoot and wearing a hat.
And so let's go back to the notes.
The church clearly had a long history of demonizing the Gnostics.
Clad in blue, the perfecta takes the form of the spiritual and looks towards the rising sun, towards the tree of knowledge. And the way the sun dial said, it said the house was north. So I would assume that this is east and this is west. So is that the right solution?
The stone fireplace was old and dusty. Hey, Nico.
Let's have this conversation again.
Those statues on the fireplace, are you sure they're in the right position?
Obviously they're not.
I'd put some statues above the...
Maybe you just need to do everything backwards. Just try everything until something triggers.
The plinths looked like they could be rotated.
Oh, wait a minute. I see now. All of a sudden we get the hint. And let's see.
The blue-colored statue was robed with a bald head and bare feet. The plinths looked like they could be rotated.
And now that looks like that. Let's take that one out and put this one in. Of course, we don't really know if we're in the right position. Still feels very much like we've screwed up here. That looks right. And this looks wrong. And I know there's probably some logic here, but it's not getting explained very well. And I'm having to click twice to rotate this 45 degrees, which I don't like the idea that the solution here might be even more complicated than what you would assume. Well, I don't like this at all. I really, really don't like this. And we've gone another 30 minutes. I'm just going to have to use the hint again. Mostly just because I know the clues are here, but I can't get it. I'm missing that part. Like, I know the sundial tells me that this wall should be the north wall, but that doesn't seem like it's the case. And this should be the east, and this should be the west, and all of that should mean something and work together, and I should be able to figure it out. But frankly, this game has got me so frustrated. I can't do any more of it. I can't bother to even spend the time. Look, I've even saved in the wrong place. It's got me so flustered. We're at 59%, so we barely got 1% done in 30 minutes. That is ridiculous. We did a lot of talking. We did a lot of interaction. Maybe we even got 1 or 2 secret achievements done. But at the end of the day, we actually accomplished bupkis. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.